Leanne, and this is finally my best books of 2017. I've been putting off this video because I feel great pressure when I film this video, and it's not because I don't want to tell you guys about all of these books, it's because I feel like I have to make sure that the video is a small and digestible enough video that I can talk about all of these 10 books and why I love them. And I feel like I also have to blurb them, and it becomes very stressy, and I'm like, I'm not going to say all of the things and all of the good reasons. But what I've decided to do is just accept that this video actually represents the only 10, 12 things that were actually good about 2017, and just to let that stress go. So however this ends up is how it ends up. I also am only doing a top 10, 12 because I do not want to get to 2023 and be doing the 23 best books of 2023. I intend to live for a long time and ain't nobody got time for that shit. Am I right? I think I'm right. So without further ado, here are my top 10 books and my 2 honourable mentions, which I managed to sneak in under the radar somehow. The first honourable mention that I have, of course, goes to Santa's Husband, which is a short graphic novel illustrated by A.B. Quach and written by Daniel Kibblesmith, which finally allows me to see my LGBTQIA+++ family represented in the Santa Claus myth. Shh, I know it's not a myth. I believe too. Just let it go. Sorry if you can hear my very hungry little cat crunching in the background, because you know, hungry but not that little of a cat. Not only does this book feature an interracial couple who are not in their 20s and do not have Beachbody ready bodies, and who are just, you know, living their lives and delivering Christmas to, you know, billions of people, but it also manages to shove in a whole lot of other discussions, including fundamentalist media and the way in which they ruin Christmas for everybody if we let them, but we don't. The underrepresentation of everybody who is not white in the North Pole and Christmas land. Racially, sexually, generationally and every other type diverse form of family unit which exists out there. And poverty, workers' rights and animal rights. I mean, really, what else says Christmas to you that isn't in this book? And again, I have to thank everybody for being very good at keeping their mouth shut over this one as one of Helen's Christmas presents, as I mentioned it to you guys on the channel quite a few times, and nobody gave the game away, so well done. And the second honourable mention that I have in my top 10 is this one, and this is Assassin's Quest. Yes it is. Yes it is. Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, which is the third book in the Farseer trilogy, aka the first trilogy that you should read in the realm of the Elderlings, or if you're new to Robin Hobb, aka the trilogy which will forever have my heart above all of the other ones. This is absolutely not my first rodeo with this book. I have read this book several times. However, it's not on this list because it's my favourite in the trilogy. It's on my list because when I was having a horrible time in 2017, this was the book which I had next to pick up in my reread. And when I picked it up, it was like coming home to my small town, getting rid of my city clothes and all of my outward trappings and appearances, getting into snuggly jammies with a warm drink and stepping into a room full of found family who were all more than happy to just sit and chat with me and tell me familiar stories over and over again. That is exactly what this book did for me, and it just made me feel so warm and fuzzy and welcoming. And this series, guys, you really need to get on it. Just get on it. And now, coming in at drumroll, still not musical, hasn't changed from last year, number 10 is the amazing domestic thriller Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. Please, 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 if you have not seen this series yet, read the book first, because it is so much better. The series was okay. I enjoyed the series. It was fine. I love Reese Witherspoon. I don't love anybody else who was in it, but they did a great job of, you know, trying to portray those characters outside of all of the complexity which is in the novel and not set in Australia, because apparently everything's set in America and Hollywood. Okay, thanks. This book is fundamentally about Jane, who is a single mother who comes to a small town. Does that sound like any other books which came out recently which were also awesome? Little fires everywhere. See, there's a beautiful theme, Anyhow, this is about Jane, who comes to this very small idyllic coastal town of Periwee and just wants to leave her entire world behind and start over for her and her little boy. Until one day on the playground there is an incident which reverberates through the entire community and has everybody's claws out and has Jane put back in her little box that she was in before feeling trapped and claustrophobic, and it goes on from there. This book is... Leanne Moriarty is my favourite Australian writer. She just encapsulates time and place and community in such a way that I haven't seen done anywhere else well recently, and she stands head and shoulders above all other domestic thriller writers for me personally, because she writes such rounded characters that after 400 pages I feel like they are people that I know, and I am always sad to leave them. If you want a domestic thriller, stop reading all of the cookie cutter crap that is out there and just pick up Leanne Moriarty. If you don't know where to go after Big Little Lies, I would suggest What Alice Forgot, which I reviewed way back when on this channel, and will leave in the cards to give you a good laugh at my booktube ineptitude. In at number 9 is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, aka the YA thriller that Leanne didn't know that she needed. I hadn't read YA in a very, very long time before this one landed on my desk, and do you know what? It changed everything. Changed everything. Fundamentally, this is a thriller about 5 kids who are very, very dissimilar from each other, who are all thrown into detention and only 4 of them come out alive, and about the subsequent investigation into the death of one of those students. And it is about when you're in high school and you're wearing these labels as your entire identity. Your whole self hinges on that label that you have been given, and then it is about making that label your own or shedding that label and being comfortable in your own skin. This one has racial diversity, it has sexual diversity, it has secrets, and it's honest, and it's quite real in some places and quite clunky and unreal in others, but in that way that works for YA fiction really, really well. It's not perfect, but I just flew through it. I ate it in like 2 whole chunks, and it was just such a good book. I highly recommend. In at number 8 is once again a Patricia Briggs book, and this is Bone Crossed, which is number 4 or 5, I can't remember, in the Mercy Thompson series. It is an urban fantasy series which I have been a fan of for a very, very long time, and if any of you guys were here for last year's best books, you will know that the book that I recommended from this series, Iron Kissed, dealt with a horrifying rape and really empoweringly discussed a really real aftermath. In this one, which is essentially a book about ghosts, there is a deaf middle schooler who is desperately trying to make himself heard by his parents when he says that there is something going on in his life, and they just will not listen to him. Half because he's at that age, and half because of his disability, because they've coddled him so much that they now don't listen to him when he actually speaks. This series has so much to offer, and every time I read a book from it I am just blown away with the intricacy of the interactions in it, and so this one very much deserves to be on this list. And at number 7 we have a book which carved great big grooves across my heart with a rusty spoon, and that is Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison, which focuses on Ruth Ann Boatwright, aka Bone, who is growing up in 1950s Carolina in an impoverished family and dealing with a whole lot of things, including incest, sexual abuse, this literally, I think I said in my review for this one, this literally has a trigger warning for everything, and it made me so incredibly sad, but I am so glad that I read it, because some of the things that I saw in this book are things that I have never seen represented anywhere else in fiction before or since then, and I loved this book so much. I'm not going to talk too much about it because this was one of the books where I felt so passionate about it that I actually managed to I got the courage to make a single book review on this, so I'll leave that in the cards up here and you can check that out if you would like. I mean, really, honestly, trigger warnings for everything, but if you are a literary fiction lover, particularly someone who loves a close character study, then this is the book for you. Number 6 is a book that I cannot believe that I am only just including in a 2017 best of, because, well, I mean, A, I read it at the start of the year, so it feels like I read it a lifetime ago, and B, it feels like I read it a lifetime ago anyway, because it's one of those books that is just on everybody's radars, always, everywhere, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This might be the year that I read Donna Tartt's 2 other books and then sit in sadness with everybody else being like, there are no more Donna Tartt books out. When is she going to write another one? Another decade away. Because it was just so up my alley. This is a campus novel about a little group of elite classics geeks at a small New England prep college, and how they are all thrown together and kind of isolated from all of their other classmates by this not crazy professor but very strange professor who chooses to teach only a tiny group of students every year, and he teaches them for all of their classes. Their entire time at this college is spent with him and shaped by him, and it is what that essentially does to them for the rest of their lives outside of his classroom. It is, oh, it's luscious. The language is so slow and dreamy, and you feel like you're in this haze where you're going through all of these summer days with them and all of the things that they get up to and all of the little intricacies of their characters, all the way up until the brakes suddenly come on and somebody dies. And then all of the shiny things turn into mirror shards that you are stabbing in your own eye, because you're looking back at all of the things that you've seen happening, at all of the ways that you have enjoyed these characters, and thinking, whoa, that was actually what was going on. How could I be so blind? Which is very interestingly what the main character who you follow throughout this entire novel is also going through. But this for me is worth the almost 600 pages. Yeah, this is 600 pages. These are Bible thin. This edition is very deceptive. And then at number 5 we have a book which just came in right under my radar, and I am so glad that I discovered it, and that is Big Mushy Happy Lump by Sarah Anderson, who is also known as Sarah's Scribbles. You can find her graphic novels, or her comics rather, quite a few places on the internet, but the best place is on Instagram at this handle here, and she is just a dream, and her characters are just a dream. Although I say her characters, what I really mean is her and everybody who interacts with her on her life journey. This one is primarily about mental health, anxiety, and what society expects for you when you turn into an adult, when you get over the age of like 21 and you're expected to have all of your shit together. That is what this one is about. And this one just, it made me check for CCTV cameras in my house after I finished reading it, because I genuinely think that she just watched me for a year to get all of the footage for this. It is very uncomfortably like having all of your bad parts laid out in public and all of the things that you don't want to think about, but at the same time it made me laugh until I cried, and I'm so happy that I read this collection this year. If you have any kind of anxiety, especially any anxiety about leaving the house, then I really recommend this collection. It's something that you should check out. In at number 4 is Shock Horror another Australian author, and really I think if I had read more Australian authors in 2017 there would be more of them on this list. So please, if you could recommend any books written by Australian authors, preferably set in Australia, I would love to hear from you in the comments. It's definitely something that I need to seek out more of in 2018. But enough rambling about that and more rambling about this. This is The Dry. Jane Harper has in The Dry created one of my new favourite mystery / thriller series ever. This one is about Aaron Falk, who is a policeman but is very much not being a policeman at the moment because he has been dragged back to his very small, very dusty, very outbacky, middle of nowhere provincial attitude small town for the funeral of a childhood friend, and he has absolutely no intention of getting more involved in this than attending the funeral and leaving again as soon as possible. But he is press ganged by the family into finding out some things that he really didn't want to find out about his old friend. And therein lies the core of the book, because we discover that there's not just a mystery over why Luke is dead and whether he killed himself and his family, but there's also a mystery about why Aaron left this small town and exactly what Luke was up to back then. And I love the Joe timelines, the way that this is so intricately back and forth just absolutely did it for me. This one was actually a buddy read with Eleanor from Eleanor Reads Books and Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings, and it was really great because we're all very different types of readers, and I read a lot obviously of mystery and thrillers and the girls did not, and so seeing all of our different reactions to this was just fabulous. If you get a chance to buddy read this with anybody, I would take it because it does things that not a lot of mystery thrillers that are out there right now do, and it takes turns that I didn't see coming. And because of all of that, I would honestly say that if you're looking for a series to get invested in, I would pick up this one. I could taste the dust in the back of my throat when I was reading this. I could see some of the boiling hot fields that he was standing in. I could smell the barns that he was walking through. So much of this book was so sensory for me, and I find that a lot of mystery thrillers that try to do this right now fall really short of what this manages to do effortlessly. So if you are looking for a mystery thriller series to get into, I would really recommend picking this one up. Force of Nature comes out in February, and I'm actually going to be part of the blog tour for it, so look out for my review of book 2 very shortly. The next book on my top 10, and we're now into my top 3, is a book which is going to surprise absolutely none of you if you were anywhere around me, my channel, Goodreads or Instagram in 2017, because it is It by Stephen King. Holy crap, I forgot how heavy this book is. It is actually a chunk, and because I have destroyed it, it is now sitting at really weird angles. Whoops. This one is one that I really don't think I need to tell any of you guys about. I will just say, if you have not read it, it is not actually about a killer clown. It is about a small town. It is about a group of children who have some horrible home lives and all band together under some really terrible circumstances and work through their PTSD of what they've gone through and their anxieties of what they're still going through together. They make a pact to be there for each other no matter what, and the horror element is almost secondary to a lot of this in a lot of different ways. And although it is fundamentally a very sensationalist horror novel about this creepy clown and why these bodies keep turning up and the fact that it's been there forever and ever and ever, it is also really, really about a group of people who grew up in ways that grew them apart and have to come back together later on. And it's so moving. It was so worth the over 1,000 pages for me, and I know it won't be for everybody, and I know Stephen King isn't for everybody, but the thing that I love about Stephen King is the way that he portrays childhood and the way that he writes children characters in a way that I identify with even now. And now in at number 2 is a book which, had I read it last year, or maybe even if I read it this year, would have ended up as number 1 on my list, except that this year I read an utterly exceptional book which has now possibly become my favourite book of all time, or at least jumped onto that like little 5-book list that's constantly evolving in my head. So bear that in mind when I talk about this one, because I feel really bad at rating it as number 2, but I have to be decisive at some point in my life, and I chose to be decisive about this list. So this one is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And I am massively behind on the bandwagon on this one because I tend to avoid everything that has even the suggestion of hype. And I'm so sad. I'm so sad that I got here so behind. Because The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was really everything that I needed to close out this really horrendous year. I literally finished this book on the last day of 2017, and I knew that it had to be included in this list because it healed my heart. It made little parts of me that were all broken on, all in pieces on the floor, start to pick themselves up and do the Humpty Dumpty with a bit of glue, because it was so touching. On the surface, this book is about a group of misfits who work on a tunnelling ship, which is essentially a ship which punches wormholes into space to take you from one place to another really, really quickly. That is on the surface what it's about, but it is absolutely not about that. It is about found family, and it is not about that. It's about being in your own skin and being okay with other people seeing you at your most vulnerable in your own skin. It's about wearing who you are and being proud of who you are, but at the same time not necessarily devaluing anybody else's experience because of that. It's about being there for each other because it's the right thing to do sometimes as a human, not necessarily because you want to be there for someone as a person. And there's just so many different places where this novel went, and there was a couple of points really early on where I thought, this is really light on the plot. And for a sci-fi novel, for somebody who comes from reading a lot of genre fiction, I think that is the one thing that's kind of put people off a little bit, but not for me. As soon as I realised that this book wasn't going to be about plot, this book was going to be about people, I settled into it and I just let the happy times flow. This has, again, I banged on about it so much in this video, but I'm just so glad to have found it in so many books this year. This has such a diverse cast, sexually and physically, because of course there are different alien races in here, and so socially and religiously, and so many different areas of diversity in here. And it's about how all of these people come together and try to make all of their needs happen whilst also meshing with everybody else's needs. And oh my god, I just loved it so much. I want to read it again right now, and there's a good possibility that I might read it again before 2018 is finished. And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder, what is at number 1 on my list? What could possibly be better than that book for me? And then I hear you all think about it for 5 minutes and realise, oh, of course the book that is at number 1 is the book that Leanne cannot stop talking about this year, has talked about in almost every video since she read it, and has literally pushed at anybody who's asked for any recommendations from her for like the half of the year since she read it, and that is The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter, which literally is now one of my top 5 books of all time. I love this book so freaking much. Before I go on and talk about it, I am going to say trigger warnings again for almost everything. Karen Slaughter pulls absolutely no punches in this book, and that is one of the reasons that I love it, because there is just such heavy realism in this book. There are so many times, so many times where I flinched thinking, oh, that was really in your face, and then I thought, do you know what? I'm really glad that that's in your face, because other books would have faded to black there and you wouldn't have got the human experience that you got in this one. I'm not going to talk too much about it, because if I do, you're all just going to click off because you're sick of me prattling on about it. And so all I will say is that this one is about a school shooting, but again, it's absolutely not. It is about family dynamics, but again, it's absolutely not. And it's about two women who are extremely strong but extremely broken people, and who discover that you can be there for another woman, for your sister, and still be strong and have some of your pieces mended without having to tear each other down. It has such a strong female friendship at the centre of this novel, and it's about giving voice to all of the people who would not otherwise have had voices. It's about another small town community. It's got that thrillery trope which was massive this year, about people coming back to small hometowns and having to try and be a whole person around all of these people who just saw you as a child and are still treating you that way. This book just came along at the right time for me and just gave me faith in this genre again, and I'm so happy to show it at number 1 on this list. If I could, I would buy both this and Santa's Husband for every single viewer that I have and just like shove it at you, because so good, guys, just so good. So that's it, guys. That is my entire good, best, wonderful, stunning books of 2017. Just goes to show there really were some gems in there. So link me in the comments if I have not already commented on your 2018 best books list, and if you have not made one, if you do not have a social media on which you have posted this list, please tell me about your favourite book of 2017 in the comments. I'll speak to you guys later. Bye!